Tony, sorry, Tony. It is time to start the meeting. Are we live?
We are live.
We are live. Yes. Okay, well, we'll start the meeting then. In that case, welcome everyone. Welcome to 4 people online that I can see at the moment. Anyone else?
Not currently. No.
Just the 4. Okay, great. So here we are at Sacre again. Last time we met was the 31st of October. You can remember about that far. There's notionally, or not notionally, there are 18 of us on this committee now. We're not all here at the moment, but a committee of 18 is quite a large beast, I think you'll agree.
It's called a crowd.
It's called a crowd. So I just wanted to say at the start of this meeting, everyone is valued and everyone's voice is important. And if there are more of us that join, well, even if there aren't, we just need to make space for one another, I think, and make sure that everyone has the space to contribute what they need to. So thank you all so much for coming. And I'm sure it's going to be a good meeting together. So first of all, a special welcome to Thomas, who is our clerk, going to be our clerk going forward, I think.
I am indeed.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Thank you to Sadie for providing Thomas.
That's okay.
Amazing. We're so grateful to have a good clerk.
He's not my son.
He's not... And also, as I say, welcome to Mel, and it's great that you can join us from all the way from Aldermaston, which is not that far really. So we have apologies from Dilip, who is our Hindu representative, and from Zvi, who is our Jewish representative, and I think from Angela, as far as I can see. Angela was looking not very well earlier on. I think she's probably decided not to come. So that's Angela Brennan, who we're appointing today. So, and I know Tony's got, and Billy have both got to leave early, so we'll crack on. Right, so over to you, Thomas. Thank you.
Yeah, I suppose I was going to go through apologies. I've got Val Boland, Rose Carberry, Dilip Bladworth, Rosie-Anna Opsey, Rabbi Zvi Solomons. Mo Bashir Mustak will likely be arriving 30 minutes late. Councillors Billy Drummond and Tony Vickers will be leaving early because they have another meeting. And I believe that's all the apologies.
Brilliant. Okay. So if we move on to item 2, membership, we've got several things to do here. We've got several people to appoint, and then we've got some vacancies to note. You want to take us through those as well, or shall I do that? I'll do that then. Okay. So Robin, you've been with us for a meeting as an observer.
I have, yes.
And you seem to have come to this meeting as well, which means somehow you still feel willing to be part of us. Is that right and realistic?
Yeah, exactly that. Yep, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm delighted to have you as a humanist representative. So when people come on to Sacre, they are nominated by their nominating body. I've had an email to confirm that that is the case from British Humanist Association.
Humanist UK. Humanist UK.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
So is everyone happy for Robin to join us?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Duly appointed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you, Robin. And similarly for Angela. So I haven't actually had a confirmation from the Church of England, but I did wonder, Mary, whether you would do.
Whether you would do what?
All sorts of things, really.
That's choir lead, St Mary's.
Exactly, choir leader at St Mary's. Well, no, but you are our C of E representative, so I think
it's a broad church.
I think you represent the C of E.
Yes. Yes.
Just give us one sentence about Angela, if you don't know Angela.
Oh, Angela is very dynamic. She's very intelligent, and she's an all-round good egg. And she likes the choir. What can I say? Yes, absolutely.
One of the clergy team at St Mary's, Thatcham, and is interested in education. She attended last meeting as an observer. Good afternoon, Amanda and Mobashir. Great to see you.
Good afternoon.
We're just in the middle of appointing our new members. So any questions about Angela, or are we happy to appoint her?
No, happy. Yeah.
Happy to do that?
Yeah.
Right, we'll appoint Angela, that's brilliant. And Mel, thank you so much for responding to Rose, I think it was, who asked you to be our local authority advisor. This has been, I don't know whether she explained to you, this has been vacant for a little while. So do you feel like you have any understanding of what this means?
Do you know, a brief summary would be very useful.
Okay, well, it's really the person who is our official link as a committee with West Berks as a local authority. So to advise us on things from the local authority that we should know about. I mean, we do have our councillors, who we trust implicitly, but it's just that link person between the local authority and this committee.
Lovely.
And it's great when it's a teacher, because you're at the coalface, really. You know what's really going on. So, yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
I mean, I don't know what David will say, but in terms of our advisors, David's the one that we pay to do lots of the work. David, what would you say about the role of local authority advisor?
Well, I think it's very important, and I think we're quite fortunate because in a lot of areas there is no support anymore for a variety of reasons, but mostly to do with funding. So yes, I think it's quite important to have somebody who understands the authority, but understands the education system in the authority, and that can help the body of SACRE maximize its chances of success in helping schools to deliver RE and keep an eye on collective worship. So I do think it's an important role. SACRE needs to hear what it's like from where you are. Plus, of course, we need to understand the ins and outs of what happens at the LA too. So yeah, I think it's an important role. But it's all about communication and connection. So, you know, the more the merrier.
Tony?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, I sort of expected that the advisor would be an actual direct employee, you know, somebody in the education department. But if your school is LA, you know,
So the role was explained to me as being as a head teacher representative on the SACRO committee. So actually being the kind of link between schools in the local authority area, so that I'm able to talk to my head teacher colleagues and gather information, but also to give you feedback as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, although we have 4 members who are teachers already. That's a category of membership, isn't it? So this is in addition.
Yes, it's head teacher rather than
member, but an advisor to us. Is that right?
Both really. But certainly, yeah, she's a member, but she's also an advisor. I mean, in the same way that David is, really. So, yeah.
Okay. No, I'm new to this now. I have no.
You and me both.
It does, to an outsider, it does seem rather strange, but custom and practice, it doesn't work.
It does work, and I think that, as David says, it's the role as head teacher, really, as opposed to simply being on teaching staff that is often so helpful.
You know, very special position.
Yeah. Okay, lovely. Then we just have these 2 vacancies in Group B and Group D. So that is someone else from the Church of England who we would love to see. And I think officially we're supposed to have another councillor as well, aren't we? So
I'm happy to work on that because I know a number of councillors of the community council are people of faith of one sort or another, and I'm not sure whether they even know what sacra, what it is.
Yes.
And, you know, there might be somebody who with an approach from one of us.
Yeah. We can dig around. Yeah.
You know,
you can dig around. I mean, it doesn't have to be a person of faith.
No.
Just someone with an interest in education.
We've got a humanist here because I think it's a worldview and spiritual attitudes to life as a whole that we're looking for, isn't it?
So I suppose we just ask you, Mary, to keep your eye out or your ear out for anyone else.
There are 2 retired teachers in the congregation at St Mary's. Would you like me to repeat that?
That would be great. Thank you. Okay, I think that's it on membership. Then we come to the election of vice chair. Just before, I know you'll bring us the nomination, Thomas, but just to explain slight mishap or difficulty that I had last time, I had misunderstood Claire's intentions about this role. I thought that having stepped down from her gone on maternity, she wouldn't want to step back into the role, whereas she did. So we had a good conversation about that afterwards, and we were able to clear things up. But it transpires that Claire, who is also a part of Bracknell Forest Sacre, would prefer to concentrate on that one. And so we'll release her to that one. And it just leaves it clear for us to appoint Amanda to be our vice chair. So apologies for my slight misstep with that one last time, but I think it's all right now. And Amanda, are you still willing to do this role?
I am happy to do this as long as others are happy for me to do it.
Okay. Are we happy for Amanda to do this role?
Do you want any proposal?
Why not?
I'll propose.
Thank you, Billy.
I'll second it.
Paul will second it. Are we all in favour of that one? Yeah. I certainly am. Thank you very much. And thank you for being hands-on as much as you can be, Amanda. That's great. Okay, so sorry, I must explain, Thomas. I do this in meetings. I kind of do bits that I shouldn't have been doing, but I think I've just done that now as well, haven't I?
No, that's fine. You go ahead.
So that's all right. But please interrupt me if I'm doing items I shouldn't be doing. Please take us through the minutes.
Okay, essentially, we'd just like to approve the minutes for the previous meetings. Does anybody have any issues with the minutes of the previous meeting? Okay, then I believe you need to ask for someone to put forward and then someone to second.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, that's fine. So someone to propose the minutes. Thank you, Tony. Someone to second it. Chris, yeah, I'm sure you do. Yeah.
If you wouldn't mind signing your name and then dating it underneath, please.
Okay. And the date is someone?
It is the 20th.
Yeah.
Thank you kindly.
Jolly good. Right, item 5 is contact with schools. As far as I know, since the last meeting, we haven't had any more direct contact with schools, or have we? No. Anyone had any exciting contacts with schools?
I contacted all mine as your instructions previously, so I thought that'd be
yeah, absolutely.
To do it again, was that?
No, not at all. No, we just. I just.
Sorry, you do that yourself, sir.
Yeah. So I would just want to thank you for your efforts so far in being in contact with schools. I do think this is a really valuable part of our role, is to form relationships with a few schools each and to develop that. So as much as you feel you can do that, the better. Thank you. On similarly on 5.2 with collective worship, I've got a meeting coming up with the collective worship lead at Kennet School and at the Downs School, where we're going to talk about collective worship in secondary schools. And my aim is to convene that group of people. It's quite hard to find actually in secondary schools sometimes who actually is in charge of collective worship, but I'm doing my best. And Kennet School have got an excellent person, of course, and the head of RE, Louise Hewitt at the Downs, she is also in charge of collective worship. So I'm meeting with them, but I hope to draw in some more people as we go along.
Do you have any joy with the women?
I didn't actually. I didn't. Yeah. So, but we'll keep going. We'll keep going. Yeah, if you have any more leads on that one.
Just probably thinking about the attitude and fear of the word worship.
Yeah.
Excuse me, Chair. I believe that Robin has.
Oh, thank you, Robin.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I'm not familiar with the schools in the area, so I'm not quite sure what's in the catchment area or not, so forgive me for this. But you were asking about if anyone's been in schools. I've been into a school called Langtree School. Is that in your area?
No.
So it's just outside Reading, but it doesn't count, no?
No.
No,
We
forgive me,
got-
I just wasn't so sure, but thank you. Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. No, West Berkshire goes up to Calcart.
Okay, yeah,
Just about there.
gotcha.
And then you drop, or Tyhurst, and then you drop off the edge. Yeah.
There, Chairman, you'll be talking about wanted short.
Actually, I'm just wondering on that, if I can just, whether it would be possible to have a list of the schools that would count as our catchment area. Is that something that we can get hold of?
Can we do that?
Yeah,
It's online.
yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, I mean, it is online, but it is sometimes useful just to make it available. But you can go to the West Berks website and you can find them there.
I think, Chairman, you had a list with
I
one of us
do.
members allocated against each
Yes,
school.
that's true. I do have that list.
Robin wasn't allocated anything at that stage because he wasn't a member.
That's right. Yeah, okay, I can send you that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Landed. Right, secondary and primary networks, David. And
Yes, indeed. Secondary network is on the, let's have a look, 14th of March, and the primary network is on the 20th of March. So these run every term. Secondary one is usually about 3:40, so it's straight after school. It's usually virtual now as well. I run the primary ones, and they're always virtual between 4 and 5, so that's the 20th of March. Secondary ones often focus a lot, as you would imagine, on GCSE, upcoming exams, syllabuses, revision schedules, and things like that, and also a little bit about the most up-to-date sort of RE teachings and basically what's coming out nationally and how it's going to affect Key Stage 3 and Key Stage 4. So I don't run the secondary one, but I try to go along to represent SACRE and to feed back. So when I go on the 14th, then I'll feed back to the next one. I'll send some sort of notes around as well. So yeah, they run every term, and we we'll feed back after each.
David, have you had anyone new coming since we tried to get more in contact with schools?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I keep a list of those that come. We have a cohort of people who regularly come. We have things that happen, as we know, parents' evenings, things happen and people can't come. But I do try to record them now and sort of send them off to people. So it is one of those situations where we know we're not going to get everyone. We have some people that come to some, we have some people to try to come to all, and we have some places where we just haven't really been able to get much of an inroad. We've also had situations where coordinators have changed or have left, and sometimes it's taken a while to get somebody new in place. What we do, because in the newsletter we send out a request for people to let us know who the coordinator is. We do, I think we have a pretty good system now where people do tend to let us know, and then hopefully those new people come along. But I think when the pandemic was on, these were real lifelines for people. And now that people are back face to face, they're so busy with more meetings than they should be having anyway. Sometimes we do find numbers drop off a bit. So what I do, I advertise it in the newsletter. I also send a flyer out. With a couple of weeks before the next one, I'll send a flyer out again. I always email people who've been to previous ones to see if we can get them back. And I'll let you know more about numbers next time. I'll give you, an update on who's coming.
I think it's one of the best things we do, really, and obviously we pay David to do this, but just to connect Mrs. Smith, as I always call her, the person who is teaching RE without any training or experience, just to connect her with David and that network and Amanda is brilliant. Yeah, Amanda, what about you?
Yes, so I've got my BLDP primary network in 2 weeks' time, and I'm mainly going to be focusing on the proposed locally agreed syllabus review. So I'm just going to focus on that, get feedback, and then obviously share it with everyone so that obviously that can be used moving forward.
An actual date for that, Amanda?
5th of March.
Lovely.
That's the Tuesday, isn't it? I'm hoping anyway.
Yes, it is.
Good. Well, thank you both very much for all you're doing on that one. Really important.
Please. When we were tasked to go to schools, and of course I know the dark arts of how to get into schools, Should do, should
Yeah,
do, I should do,
yeah.
exactly. But one of the things we were asked to do was to collect up-to-date email addresses for the appropriate contact. And that's always the issue because people move around and newsletters and things go to non-existent people and all that kind of stuff. So did we all collected that? Did we touch base in some way with all those new?
So what I've done is I've collected that and I hope shared it with David so that he can email the correct person. And my aim is to keep that list up to date so that we can all continually do that, really.
Thank you.
So are there names that have been provided through the networks that would help us to make our contacts with the schools? Are these the relevant people from the schools that are invited and members of the networks?
That would be work. So that would be the information flowing the other way, wouldn't it? Yes. I haven't seen that actually. No.
Well, I guess the answer to that is not necessarily because you know if these people are emailing or contacting school X and nothing comes back, you don't know whether the person had a parents' evening or they're working in Hong Kong or whatever.
Yeah.
So that the filter that we, us contacting the schools very recently should have flushed some of that out. But it's important. Somebody look at me in the eye and say, well, this is the contact. I'm just hope we follow that up while it's live.
Absolutely.
Because terminally these things can change.
So David, what do you think about that?
Yeah, it is an issue. I was just going to suggest something that happens in a couple of other SACRAs I'm involved with, which is that we create a master database that the clerk has. So when it comes to things going out, say like when we send a newsletter out, it's usually through the LA. Now, if that person has a central list of people that's up to date, so every time there's a change, then I send that information through, or if it comes through any of you people, it goes through, so that we make sure we do go to the right person. I'm not sure if we have that at the moment, so I think it wouldn't be difficult for us to set that up. I can send through the ones that I've got, and then we can then have, if we've got a list of all the schools, we've actually got a clearer idea where we don't have a contact, and we can then perhaps try to reach out via a different route to them. So I think that's what we could start. Amanda will have some contacts as well, you see, as well as me. So we'll all have different ones. We create that master list. That would help.
And sorry, I'll come to you in a minute, Mel, but is that something that, Thomas, you'd be able to monitor for us or keep for us?
Let me yes,
you provide the information to us to start with.
Yeah, we just send it to you, and you've got a list of the schools. We send you the person's name in the email. Then we can just keep that updated.
Yeah.
I've been doing this 6 years now, and this is what I've really wanted all this time. Updated list of Mel.
Just a really boring practical point. There is a huge turnover sometimes in subject coordinators and worship leaders. It's always worthwhile copying in not just the person whose name, but also the school office in case someone is off on illness or something like that. Then the office staff can make sure that information gets to the right person, even if it's someone who's only temporarily covering that position.
Really helpful, thank you. Okay, anything else on contact with schools? Let's move then to item 6. Thank you, David, for the action plan update that you've given us.
Okay, yes, this is on page 11 of your pack. So if you scroll through to that, you'll see the usual big table. We have 3 sections. The first one of which is our core business, which doesn't change. And what I'm pleased to say is we're pretty good at this. We do manage to make sure that we fulfill our core business. We, I think, have been pretty successful in swelling the ranks of SACRA, so that we're always going to be core. We have the annual report, which I know yourself and Amanda sorted out this year. We subscribe to NASCA, which gives us some protection, gives us an ongoing library of resources, and also access to things like their conference and AGM, which is usually a really informative conference because it's talking about not just sort of SACRA things that happen now, but things that will be coming up, and often has big speakers from the world of RE. And there's some big things that will be happening in the next few months. So this year's luckily is not just face to face, but it's virtual as well. So having access to that is something that we could consider. But the subscription is well worth the £105 we have a year. Then, of course, we monitor the locally agreed syllabus. This is a big thing that we've been involved. Well, we're always involved in, but we're right in the teeth of it at the moment. And there's a separate agenda issue for that later, so I won't talk about it, but it's on the action plan. We monitor and offer guidance on collective worship. We're aware that that is a difficult thing to monitor and also a difficult thing to truly define and to find out exactly, what people mean and how it's being done. And quite a lot of people think it shouldn't be being done at all. So there's some shifting sands about that. So we're just keeping an eye on that situation. And when we get some advice from on high, that would be lovely. Then we get to B and C. Now, B and C is the things that we as a SACRE choose to do to offer support to schools and to teachers. And this is what we use the rest of our budget with. So with part of your budget, we're sorting out the core stuff. The rest of it, we are sorting out things that we'd like to do to offer support. So we connect through primary networks, with the secondary networks as well. We have the termly newsletter, which the next one will go out in April. And I'd always at this point ask if there's anything that you would want putting in there, please do let me know. There will always be local and national things in there. So Amanda, actually, what it would be good to advertise your details for people to come. I know that not everyone does because it's a subscription thing, but if you wanted something mentioned in there about that whole model, then please let me know and I can put that in. So we usually have things like the national conferences that go on, like Strictly RE, but we also have local events and also free resources, free online resources, opportunities for teachers to get involved. We keep them up to date with what's going on with the syllabus as well. All that's done every term. We'll go out in the second week of term. So I'll be starting to collate that very shortly. And then with C, the final sort of rows at the bottom is all to do with the Berkshire hub, this sort of unique position we have where the 6 SACREs work together to coordinate things like the syllabus, but also supportive resources like the fabulous Real People, Real Faith, which we'll always advertise, and hopefully we'll keep going with that. And at the bottom, I've put in italics because italics are things that we haven't sort of really committed to, but I think it'd be fabulous if we could get an RE conference for schools again. It could be virtual, it could be face-to-face, I don't know, but it would probably be organised through the hub. And I'm sure when the syllabus is launched, they'll want, and they should have, a major event that will be continuing professional development as well as just here's the syllabus. It's a real opportunity to bring people together. So that's what the action plan looks like at the moment. Obviously, if there are any suggestions, anything you think I've missed, anything you think would be a good use of our money, please do let me know and I can put things on for us to discuss at the next meeting. So any questions about that, please do ask. Thanks, David. Tony's got a question.
Well, it's around interfaith dialogue and how that can be produced, how we can perhaps assist that. And in my experience, many organisations welcome lists of local speakers who might be of interest, and I don't know whether schools are in the same sort of view that if and I saw when I was looking at the action plan that I looked on the Berkshire Hub website, which I got to the document which has a directory of churches, and noticed that only 4 in the whole of West Berkshire are in that list. Most of them are from other parts of Berkshire. So that would be a useful exercise, I think.
Is that the Crossing the Bridges directory?
That's the one, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how up to date it is, but I thought,
It really needs updating. It really does need updating, that one, and it's a good thing for us to mention at this point because that was a few years ago, and it would be really great to have someone on SACRE that could try to get some more details of not only the churches but the other places of worship we have too. It's a lovely idea.
Investigate that. I mean, my family is very multi-faith, and I've just come back from Singapore where I have a nephew who lives, and amazed at how they've they've got a very high attendance at all forms of worship, but there's absolutely no conflict. Everybody gets on extremely well, and I think there's a great deal of work that we could do. And I know my own church, which is very traditional Catholic, we had the local imam come and speak a few years ago. We could still talk about that, and I think it's enormously helpful that we're going to have interfaith understanding and just bringing that directory up to date, and also perhaps thinking about a directory of which might be a spin-off of that, of local priests, leaders of faith groups who might be willing to come into schools and talk about their outlook on faith and the worldview.
Or indeed other churches. Can I support that, Chairman? Because the thing in the visit to school before Christmas that was the most common plea was we need good quality speakers from any faith, all faiths, no faiths, who can come and contribute to this area. And same reason, people change, people move on, and they lose their these contacts are often personal. And it would be good to breathe life into that. There's a lot of good to be done.
That would be excellent. So if you'd be happy to take on that little
I'll do my bit. Yes. The local Catholic Church is going through a huge transformation. It's the same reason my Church of England has combined parishes, and we're doing the same. But effectively, it's going to be almost a West Berkshire wide single parish. So I don't know who's going to lead that, but we've got a very good new priest in St Nick's, who I think was quite surprised to learn how many councillors actually are people of faith. And so actually went, I won't tell you who did the digging around. But,
so Berkshire, I think this is one for maybe of interest to you as well. It was so nice for us to come to the mosque last time, but I don't know whether there are more ways in which people at Newbury Mosque can be made known to the schools. Potential for, I mean, Kareem Sharawi from the Muslim community does come into a few schools, I know. We've lost Shazad now, haven't we? Moved away.
Yeah.
You know, are there other people who, and you yourself have been in, I think, to schools, haven't you?
Yeah.
But it's a lot for one person to do. So this is probably an opportunity to think about the Muslim community in West Berkshire as well. You know, how can they visit, be made known, connect with in a new way? So, yeah, David, sorry.
Definitely. I agree. I mean, I visited the Falkland Primary School in November last year, just after our last session we had. I think it's a good idea. I will speak to the people in the mosque and share that, if there are people who are willing to be part of it, definitely, it's a good initiative, to at least have a list of people who we can, use to go and visit the schools. Yeah, definitely.
Thank you. That'd be really helpful, I think. And maybe, if possible, some women as well as men. I don't know whether that is possible, but it's always good.
It is possible. Yeah, I mean, there are a few women I can think of who would be willing to go and do this. So yeah, I mean, just for your benefit, I also run a Sunday school in Broadway House in Newbury, and I've got a few teachers who are females, who I can think of who potentially can help there, So yeah.
Thank you so much, Robin.
You're on mute, Robin.
The first time
there we are. That's better. I don't want to put a sort of an extra difficulty in this, but just to raise something up as a potential concern. So I often go around to schools and I talk about humanism. I mean, I do it, really quite regularly in the area that I'm in. And when I go into schools, people tell me about other people they've had in to talk about worldviews, and sometimes they talk about those people in a very opposite of flattering way. and they say we wouldn't have this person in again because this person was talking in such a way that it contradicted British values. So I think we need to be very cautious if we are creating a list of speakers and we saying that this speaker is appropriate to go into this school to talk about this thing, because we're kind of saying, okay, you know, we're putting inverted commas our faith in this person, but I think we need at least to consider some sort of quality control, not quality control about the quality of the speaker in terms of delivery. I think that's probably beyond our remit, but certainly in what's being said, because we don't want to complicitly sort of say, yes, what this message is one that we support. So I think there needs to be some sort of kind of quality control within this if we're recommending people to go into schools. I mean, in fact, I think there's a safeguarding issue in some regard when we're talking about some of the things that we might say to students.
Yeah, fair point. Thank you. Need to bear that in mind. David?
Yep, two things on this score. One, the new RE Hubs website that came out a few months ago, which is run through the RE Council, has got a section on local speakers for the different areas. Now, these people will have been quality controlled. Now, I don't know whether we've got many in there, but it's something that, you know, with the person who's kindly said they'll look at the crossing the bridges, but this could also be another way of which we're sort of cross-fertilizing here, because RE Hubs has national sort of spread. It's really good from that point of view, and it's run through the REC, so that, you know, there's big money and there's proper sort of kudos behind it. So that's one thing. The second thing has sadly escaped me, which is really annoying, but it was oh yeah, I know what it was. It was there's a document I've seen, and I'm not sure whether we've got one, which talks about a code of conduct for speakers. So like what's expected of them. And it's something I think I developed with another SAC craze. I'd be very happy to share that. It was to do just sort of what's required of them, so do's and don'ts, really. It's, you know, we know that you're going to go in and we could talk about your faith and so on, but it is not with a view of sort of converting or anything like that. But it was just something that one of the other SAC craze came up with to give people guidance, and also to give schools guidance about you know, someone who's going to come in. Whenever I had someone coming in my school, I always met with them first, make sure that everyone knew what was going to be going on. But I appreciate these days it's a really, really busy thing to do, but we do have to be careful. We might know someone who's very good, but when they go into a school setting, being able to communicate with children is not it's not a gift that everyone has. So yeah, if I dig out that document and send it round, maybe it would help us sort of think about some guidance that we could give.
Again, really helpful if you could do that. Thank you. Mel?
Find that.
Very much along the same lines of what Robin and David have just raised. Obviously, in schools, we've got really strong safeguards now on people coming into school. And our volunteer policy, it's unrecognisable from when I started teaching, the amount of preparation that people have to go in before they come in and work with the children. I think schools would really value a quality assured list of local speakers. And perhaps as part of that, code of conduct sounds ideal. I wonder if we could have some basic training as well about expectations for people, you know, maybe particularly in primary schools if they weren't used to speaking to younger children. I think I would not want to stifle the children asking questions. And I wouldn't want to stop local people coming into schools to share their experiences. I think there's real value in that. But we need to protect them as well as protecting the children, because if they haven't had experience of what sort of questions a 4-year-old might ask them, or what sort of challenges a 14-year-old might decide to throw their way based on news articles or things like that, then we're putting them in a very vulnerable position. And obviously we can't predict how that conversation is going to go. So I think absolutely code of conduct, maybe some kind of basic training for people who were willing and very generous in giving up their time. That's so valuable. But if we could say to schools, if you use someone off this list, these are the things you can expect from them, I think schools would jump on the opportunity for that. I think there is some uncertainty and some fear that they may get, because everyone's got a horror story about someone they've invited in and then had to kind of hurry out of the collective worship area. Thank you very much for your time.
Yes.
I'm thinking, I'm not sure that person was aware why what they were doing was inappropriate. So that would be a great approach. I'd be happy to help with that if we wanted to do some kind of training or some agreed sort of meeting that we would have with local speakers before they went into schools.
Thank you so much.
Yeah,
to
absolutely,
you all. I
100%.
think that's really, really helpful. So, so what does that mean then? So Tony's going to seek to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the interfaith approach is not really appropriate, probably for primary schools. I would have thought it's mainly the secondary schools where I think they need to have that approach. I mean, I'm no expert, but
What would you say about that, Mel? Would you?
Found the unmute button. I think a lot of things that work in primary schools also work in secondary schools, but I think you really have to simplify the message in primary schools so that it's accessible to all the children, and then be led by sort of what they want to find out more. And I know that if we're inviting people in, and Aldermaston, we are not a diverse community, and we desperately do need input from different faiths and cultures and backgrounds. If I knew that I was representing the same information from each group, and that was a framework the children could hang their understanding on, would be fantastic for them and give them the tools they need when they're going out into the wider world. But I think secondary school, I'm not sure. We must have secondary colleagues here, haven't we? Sometimes they would want to give the children perhaps a little bit more freedom to explore things under their own steam, under their own direction.
So I think secondary colleagues are probably already more in touch with faith representatives than many primary leads would be. And because they work as quite a unit, the secondary RE leads, and they've got their own network, and I think they're probably in a better position. I don't know what you think, Paul.
Well, Chairman, I hear all of this, and obviously caution is a good thing. On the other hand, I feel this initiative slipping through our fingers already. All the schools, including secondaries, that we would like more quality speakers. The quick way, of course, you're never going to get all these people together. If we could produce a brief document which goes to the church or the faith group and say, we're going to list you here. This is what we would expect from somebody coming into school. Can you, if you've got somebody who can deliver this confidently, then please put that name forward. Let's face it. We've all sat in assemblies where teachers aren't very good at talking to children. It's not, they're better than the average adult. And there certainly are skills and things that are important there. But when you invite someone in, particularly in secondary school, it's going to be the head or the head of year or the head of RE stood next to them, and they're going to be talking to children. That person can supervise that and manage it. We're not talking about one-to-one teaching or anything like that, but we need to be cautious. The worst speaker I ever had in my entire life, put him in front of 300 year 7 pupils, age 11, thought it was going to be absolutely brilliant. This guy had walked on the moon. He was an astronaut. It was dreadful. So absolutely dreadful. It was appalling.
Yeah.
So we're never going to guarantee quality. I mean, schools, word of mouth, of course, is very important. Somebody appears somewhere and gets recommended.
But so,
like you did.
But maybe the kind of basic training you're talking about could simply mean that the head teacher or collective worship leader, whoever it is, has a conversation with the speaker in advance, running through the code of conduct. And do you think, Mel, or does it need more than that?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think it would be nice to know that you would cover some. I'm sorry, I'm just going to sound really tick boxy, and it's probably a very primary school approach, but that we are going to talk about place of worship, holy days, particular pillars of faith and specific areas of belief, so that the children really find out a lot more about, for example, another faith. But then they get to talk, that person gets to share their personal experiences as well. Does that make sense? So we start broad and then share personal experiences too, to bring that to life for the children. Because what you want, I mean, you don't want just something you get off Twinkle or something that you could print off yourself and put up. You want it to be really personalised. But you also need to make sure that there's kind of a basic level of information that's coming out and being shared with the children and adding to their kind of worldview and world knowledge.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, sometimes it does get. I mean, I took someone from West Berks Food Bank into Kenny at one time, and they were appalling as well. So food bank.
I've had really good food bank people, so I'm just going to put that out there for balance.
sometimes it does go wrong, but we really hear the quality control message, I think, there.
Yeah.
Tony?
And I think safeguarding as well, we do need to be aware that that is for us a huge consideration. So knowing that they've been vetted maybe in some way. So under our volunteer policy, for example, we need to have at least 2 references. And perhaps we need to think about something like that as part of the quality assurance. I don't know. It may be going too far, but just with my safeguarding hat on, I think it would be good for schools to know, you know, that we've had vouching for people.
The visitor's never going to be left alone with children, though, yeah?
Oh, they hear them read. So they are, if you like, going to be left alone with them. They have to be, the visitor policy, it's almost like a recruitment policy now.
In this case, though...
I know, you're absolutely right. I'm just thinking, if we're looking at it from what makes this the different list of, say, someone saying, my friend knows someone who knows someone, and they'd be happy to come in. And I think what schools want is an assurance that they are going to get a quality speaker. They don't have to set the world on fire, but they are someone who is, you know, for example, of that faith community, well established, able to talk authentically about their experience and to come into schools. And I know there's a boundary there. I know that you're always balancing with volunteers, that responsibility between, thank goodness someone's kind enough to give us their time, but also the responsibility we have towards our children to make sure the person giving their time is doing so for the right reasons and is going to share with them, you know, valuable information.
Mary, what do you think about this? And with all your experience?
With all my experience. We've had some good speakers at Berkshire. Yourself is you're one of them. And we've had some fairly appalling ones. We've had ones that have droned on for way over their allotted time and put the rest of the school day out. So I've had teachers fume when they may do half their English lesson, for example. It sounds trite, but that's really quite a valid thing. And I think visitors are very valuable in school. We always loved having visitors in, but they do have to have those guidelines. And if your assembly, like ours were there would be a 10-minute talk with a song and some kind of reflection stroke prayer, then if that's the guideline you want them to follow, then that's what they have to be aware of. You know, I have in the past, and I thought it's gone too long, interrupted at a moment, said, wasn't that lovely? Let's give everyone a round of applause, you know, because you think it's awful, you know.
Robin, you wanted to come in, I think.
Yeah, please. I think there are 2 issues. I think one is the quality of the speaker per se in terms of delivery, and that of course is important. But I wasn't really talking about that in my mind. I was talking about saying stuff that's frankly inappropriate. So the last school I went into, they were talking about the previous speaker saying that homosexuality was a sin. Now, if you're going to be saying stuff like that, and you're going to be saying it to students, which is contrary to British values, you know, and we are saying that we think that these people should be going into schools, then we are therefore in a sense sanctioning that. I think we need to assure ourselves to some degree that we've done something to check out the quality of the messages that are given. I just don't think we can do it carte blanche. I mean, it takes us back to where we were. I think the other point that was made, by the way, is that we don't want to let it slip out of our fingers. We don't want this to be something that we don't deliver, but we do want to deliver it with caution. So I just want to go back to that point. It wasn't so much about the delivery. I think that's fair. It's about the content. And there are safeguarding issues in terms of some of the contents that's delivered.
Okay, now we have got quite a lot more to discuss, so
Yeah,
let's try and...
I've got to leave in a minute. But,
okay, what would you say in closing?
Well, I don't want to stray into areas that I'm not an expert in, which everything to do with what happens in schools, frankly. I've never been a teacher, and I have had children at schools in this country for a very long time, of my own, they all live abroad. But what I will undertake to do is to do some research on where are the organisations, whether they're churches or called something else, that are religious, and to try and help to complete that database that you've got at the hub. Because I'm a bit ashamed that what's Berkshire is so poorly represented. And if I was given the crib sheet, which David Rees says he's got from another paper, which gives guidelines to faith leaders, then
have you got somebody who fits that bill who could do
I can
the job?
say, would you mind being on this list? And by the way, schools love to have outside speakers. This is the sort of thing they would be expecting. And I'd leave it at that, as far as what I will do. But I think there's widespread support for the idea, and it's something we've got to pursue, I think. But that's the limit of what I will do, and I'll leave everybody else to talk about it if you, as chair, want to give it more time. But I've got to go to another meeting.
Okay. Are we happy with going that far for now? And we'll see. Yeah, there's probably more work to be done on it, but that's a good step forward. And thank you very much, Tony, and everyone for their contributions to that, I think. Thank you very much for joining us, Tony. So where are we? We are on to, well, that was a part of the action plan, wasn't it, David? Is there anything? Thank you so much for coming, guys. Anything else on the action plan, David?
No, just any other comments, really?
Never has the action plan produced so much discussion. There we are. Okay, let's move on then to the new syllabus, which again we've had sight of. There it is in the agenda. Now, David has been working really hard on this, along with Anne Andrews at the Oxford Diocese. David, do you want to talk?
Yeah, just to give a bit of context, as many of you will know, we have to review the syllabus every 5 years. Because we choose to work with Berkshire Hub, it means us coming together. Now, as you'll appreciate, if you have a lot of people trying to sort out a syllabus, it can take forever. So we've been working through the hub to try and create a little sort of subgroup that's writing. Now, after an awful lot of discussion through the hub, and this has rumbled on for a long time, it finally got to the point where they said, we just really want to actually get on with it now. So what they said, I think a couple of hub meetings ago, was that the 3 advisors who advised the 6 Sacres, which is myself, Angela Hill, who is Wokingham, and Anne Andrews, who's Bracknell Forest and Windsor and Maidenhead, get us together as RE people to put some flesh on the bones, using all the feedback we've had from all the Sacre meetings and all the teacher working groups and all that sort of feedback, put it together and start to try and form this syllabus. And what they wanted was a bigger syllabus than we had last time, because our last one was skeletal, deliberately so, and to concentrate on the sort of questions that we would frame the learning through. And these would be suggested questions, not statutory. We'd make that really clear, but then also work on exemplars, develop some schemes of work down the line to give ideas about content. So if you go to your pack, starting from page 13, you'll see the fruits of what our initial discussions have been. We've met twice. Now, unfortunately, for both of those meetings, Angela was ill and was signed off work, so was not able to join. So Anne and I basically did this. We have another meeting coming up soon, but we have a Berkshire Hub meeting, I think, on the 18th of March. Yeah. So there's, and I think Anne and I, and hopefully Angela, will meet on the 20th, a couple of days after it. This has been sent out. What you've got here has been sent out by Anne. It's all our notes and some of the suggestions, not written in tablets of stone. It is out there for you to look at and consider. What we are trying to keep in mind is the teachers and the children. So we are trying to find a way of making the syllabus user friendly. So we want teachers to be able to look at it and think, I can teach that, and this is the content that I need. We completely trust that they will have the activities and the know-how about how to do this. We will look at training through networks, through conferences, through whatever. But we're just focusing on those inquiry questions. And just before I throw it open to you, inquiry questions is the way that pretty much all syllabuses are structured and have been for a while, certainly going back 10 or so years, if not more. So we are bang up to date with, we've been aware of some other modern syllabuses. So if you look on page 13, you'll notice that if you look to the question theme column, which is like the 3rd column in, particularly if you go down towards the bottom into the Christianity bit, you'll see in brackets afterwards TH or HSS, things like that, or PH. Now, this reflects the three lenses that are used in many of the worldview syllabuses. So it's theological lens, philosophical lens, and human social sciences. So that's why they're there. What we're trying to do is to cherry pick the best of what's going on in the world of RE now, whilst making sure it's not too, not so academically wordy that it's not workable for schools. This is where people like Amanda and Mel are going to be really useful to be able to look at this and think, yes, we can structure an RE curriculum around this. So this is our first go at collating all the evidence, drilling it down, and it's just taking us to that next step, because what we were doing before was spending a lot of time arguing over some very, very small points. We just needed now to get stuck in. So this is Anne and I's first go, and we're throwing it over to Sacre saying, please have a look. If you're completely against something, please suggest something else, and we'll take it back to the hub and discuss it and make fine tunes. So that's where we are.
Thank you, David. Mel, we're lovely to hear your voice on this.
Sorry, am I talking too much? I just
No,
want to
not at
check
all.
we're okay to share that draft document with other people, because obviously I find that quite useful to share it with some of my other head colleagues and my RE lead amongst others, and have a chat with them about it. Is that okay?
Yes, I think as far as we're concerned, it is, but just make sure that you say to people, this isn't written in, this
Yeah,
isn't
of
it.
course.
This
Of
is
course.
just an early stage. Well, hopefully it won't change too much, because we've had a good old chat about this and we think it is workable. But we know full well that there's going to be a lot of people with difference of opinion, and this is the whole point of this. So yeah, by all means share and have a good old chat. And do let me know. Please do let us know.
Mobashir?
Yes, thank you. I had a quick glance over it, and I can clearly see there are some things that can be added to it. So I think that it's a good start, but there are some essential elements that need to be added. So yeah, happy to work on it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could let us know what you see as the essential elements adding, it would be great.
One of the key things to bear in mind with the things that to be added is the age range we're looking at. We're not looking to overload theologically too early. So it is, but what we rely on from people within the faith and worldview communities is what is that core stuff that you really want taught at those age groups, and that's where your experience is vital. So we need to hear your voice, definitely.
Definitely.
Thank you, Mobashir.
Thank you. I've read through this, and we would all have our pet topics that aren't in there, and some that we don't like. But I've got a problem with this at all, and there's some good work in there, so well done. I don't like the word experts, but there we go. There's a definition of that word, isn't there? So it's good. The only thing I would say is, going back to our visit to the schools, which is actually what, at the end of the day, what this is all about, that there was anxiety in different proportions about resources. Now, we haven't got a prescribed syllabus for anything in this country unless you get to exam level, which is quite right. And there's always been a reluctance to produce resources, because they then become the orthodoxy. But schools were very anxious that they would at least be given some examples of some things that they could use to develop their own resources. So I think that's an important stage in this.
Definitely.
It certainly is, isn't it? And I mean, one primary teacher said to me, it was almost, whatever the syllabus is, we use Discovery RE. That's what we do. Which, I mean, I don't know what you use, Mel, but or what they use at Spurcroft even, actually. But
what we've done, though, if I could just come into this, what we've done is to try and set something up so that schools can still use port resources. But obviously, because I've always worked with Discovery RE and now Jigsaw RE, but we've always said to schools, you need to follow your locally agreed syllabus. What we can do is help you follow that syllabus by giving you suggestions and so on. Now, we know that with academisation, they don't necessarily have to follow, but most people do tend to look at their local area anyway, because that's where support guidance comes from. So the hub was always going to hopefully put together some exemplar material. That was certainly the plan last time, but then the pandemic hit, as we know, and we didn't have the opportunity. So hopefully, yes, we'll have a framework, and then we'll try to get groups of teachers together to develop some more, so that they can have stuff to run with. But all the different materials out there and resources, we have to, you're right, we have to accept that they will go, because there's increasing numbers of things out there now, but we just need to help them be aware that they've got to follow what they've got to follow.
Mubashir, did you want to come back in, or is your hand just left up from before?
And you're on mute.
You never know.
It's a legacy hand.
It's a legacy. Oh, I love that phrase, legacy hand. Yeah, very good. Okay, thank you so much. I mean, David and Anne have done so much work on this, and as one who's been at the hub meetings, I'm probably responsible for some of the theological minutiae debate. Sorry about that. But is there anything else? Is there anything else that we want to comment on, Chris?
I'm just maybe lifting a stone that really we do want to put back down, but just thinking about recent political events, particularly in the Middle East, and what appears to be the resurgence of anti-Semitism, and to a lesser extent, or maybe not, Islamophobia, given the two sides. I'm not talking here about primary necessarily, but probably by key stage 3, people are starting to hear these words, these ideas. And when you're talking about topics, for example, as we do at Willing in year 8 about just war, jihad and such like, I know these are very, very difficult areas to go into. Is it a stone we just leave covered over, or is that something that can be approached? Because I imagine...
Yes, if I can come in on there, you're absolutely right to raise this, and it's something that Ari has sort of tried to keep under the stone for a while. But what a lot of people are saying nationally now is that RE is the place where we do look at this sort of challenging stuff. Obviously, it has to be done carefully and with guidance and so on. So if you look at things like Discovery RE and Jigsaw RE has always tackled things like jihad and Islamophobia and anti-Semitism at the higher end of key stage 2. And I think, that's something that we would have the chance to develop and put into the suggested content part. Say, just to being mindful to avoid stereotypes, to look at the different images that we're using to make sure they're representative, to check with faith communities and worldviews about whether an image is representative or a comment is representative. And this again is where we need that information from people at that end of it to say this is appropriate and this is not. So for example, in a couple of other SACREs, we've had documents produced from Muslim members of SACRE about the difficulties, say, of being at school during the time of fasting, or just anything like that. And there have been some SACREs that have sent things out about the whole Palestine situation over the last few months. Very carefully worded, checked with both communities. Been very difficult to organise, but I know Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole did that recently. So yes, we should be in a position to do that, but yes, sensitively.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on the syllabus before we send David away to talk about it more with Anne?
Just keep your comments coming back. If anyone wants to email some comments to me, then I can take that back to Anne. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Right. Number 8 is budget proposal. Now, we actually agree our budget formally at the April meeting or May meeting or June meeting, whenever it comes after the end of the financial year, beginning of the new one. But I like to just run it by you in advance, because our SACRE budget doesn't change really at all from year to year unless we decide to spend the money differently. So I've just included the document in this agenda so that you can have a look. And if you feel like there are major changes that need making, then please let me know. I always assume we're going to get the same level of funding, which we have done the last few years. our councillors have left us now, so no one's
Well,
here.
I haven't.
Oh, no, sorry. Sorry.
But I'm about to. I've got another meeting.
You've got- yeah.
This meeting's
Sorry,
longer than I
Paul,
thought.
sorry.
I'm not offended by you, sir,
That's all right.
or what you say.
That's all right.
Yeah. Well, obviously, the
That's because I
budget
think you're a
meeting is
teacher.
next week. Well, yeah, I'm not. Well, I'm not. Is next week, and there'll be blood on the floor. So I don't think we can take anything for granted.
No.
But I have a suspicion that this will be looked upon favourably, and there's a number of us councillors in the room and not in the room that will want to see that. In fact, I wonder if there's an opportunity to be a bit more ambitious. We've talked a lot about a new syllabus. It's a major upheaval. We're hearing that some of the most difficult issues in our community, local and worldwide, are rightly dealt with in this sphere. So maybe you should be putting in a bid for some extra funds as a one-off because of the changes that we're expecting. How can it go wrong?
We do, of course, have our extra funding for the new syllabus as a separate dollar,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
we've already had. But yeah,
That'll be enough.
that's encouraging to know. Anything else? Any other comments on that? As I say, I just kind of run it by you really, just to check. Most of our funding is to pay David for what he does for us, which is massive. And we continue to be really grateful to David for everything he does. Okay, if you do have any other thoughts about it, please get in contact before the next meeting. And apologies, Councillor, for forgetting you were a councillor at that
I'm not
point.
offended. I'm a hard person to offend.
You are. Number 9 is just simply a flyer for a conference.
Yes.
I'm sure you're better at talking about this than me, David. But there it is in the.
I can be real brief on this one. Southwest Sacre Conference, March the 4th. This is a really big one because it's one of the few conferences that's directly directed at Sacre members. So they put on all sorts of different workshops that you can see there, some of which are to do with really big picture stuff, and some of which are just about the running of Sacre and how to make it more, how to make it more effective, really. But I would draw your attention to keynote speaker Jen Jenkins. She's one of the 3 curriculum framework projects that's going to be launched on May the 2nd, and that will have, there'll be all sorts of ripples coming out of that, because that's going to be different curriculum models of how to teach RE. So her one is all based on Coventry Cathedral, because that's where she's based, and it's about peace and reconciliation. But she's a teacher, she's an engaging speaker. You've also got the Big Ideas, which is another RE worldviews curriculum with Dave Francis. There's some big things going on there. I'll be going because I always try to go to this, and I'll feed back. But if anybody else wants to go, it is only £15 for a virtual afternoon if anyone wants to go. I mean, that's pretty good value.
I liked the one that said, so you've joined your local Sacre. That's quite nice for someone new.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's it. It is for all ranges, for people who've just joined to sort of seasoned dinosaurs like myself who've been doing this for a while.
Great, thank you. Take us through the newsletter, if you would.
Okay, is that on there? Right, yes, the newsletter, basically. Is it not part of the pack? I don't think it is it?
No, it's not actually.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, the newsletter comes out the 2nd week of every term, and always leads with the idea of please let us know about your coordinator, particularly if it's changed. Then we move on to just outlining the support that Sacre gives and the desire for us to know what's going on, for them to interact with us. Then it would be updates on the Pan Berkshire Hub and the syllabus. And then it goes through to local events, national events, and free resources. It's usually about 4 pages of A4, which is longer than I would like, but there's so much going on, and there's always really good free resources that we can find that we know that teachers are really sort of looking out for. So if you haven't been able perhaps to visit a mosque, you've got Visit My Mosque website, or you've got, there's some really, really good stuff out there now. And that's what we just try to do, is to inform, but also show them opportunities about conferences that they may go to, There's one at the Salisbury Diocese coming up in March, which is really good conference, very, very good value. It is just helping them with their CPD. So that's what the newsletter is all about. And again, if anyone has anything they want to put in the newsletter, please let me know.
Looks like Berkshire might.
Yes, David. Yeah, Ramadan is starting next month, so
Yes,
just wanted
indeed.
to like that. And do you want me to send you something that can
would
put
be
in
lovely.
the...
Anything you would like put in, whether it's details about how to contact yourself or somebody who wants, if they needed something, please, send it through to me and I can put it in. Same with Robin or anyone else. If you've got something you'd like put in there, because schools are, as we've seen already, looking to find out about how can I get that lived experience. Please let me know and I'll put it in.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent. And Strictly RE?
Oh, yeah. Strictly RE. Okay. End of January, 2-day conference. I think there was 400 teachers gave up their entire weekend to go to this conference again. It's a massive every year event, and it is really dealing with it's the big names. It is funded by RE Today, so it's in a massive advertising campaign for them, and this year was probably the most blatant advertising one that I've seen. But there were some really useful things on there. It's cross-phase, so it goes from early years right the way up to Key Stage 4 and 5. Lots of different seminars and workshops looking. The keynotes was about where RE is now, where it was in the past, and where it will be going on to. There were updates about these new curriculums that come out on May the 2nd. Basically, I will be downloading everything that I can. I went to everything that I could, and I will create some bits and pieces for you all to be able to see. But that's sort of happened at the end of January, so it's still quite fresh.
Lovely, thank you. Equality and diversity. I just wanted to say on this that, as you all know, Sacre is divided into 4 groups for a reason, which is to express the diversity of our population in this area. So, the Church of England, for example, has its own group. The trouble with me is, when I look at you, Mary, I think teacher rather than Church of England. So I just wanted to say, let's make sure that as we are part of this committee, that we are representing our group, as it were, if you know what I mean, in an appropriate way. I don't know what that looks like for the Church of England, to be honest, but I kind of know what it looks like for me as a Christian, and for Robin and for Berkshire, it's kind of, and the teachers, it's sort of obvious, but I just wanted to sort of flag that up really, so that we are actually doing what the committee is supposed to do in terms of the 4 groupings. And it'd be good when Angela's here and someone else from the Church of England maybe, because sometimes Sacres can get a bit skewed.
Thank you for telling us off so beautifully, Chairman. That is noted.
I'm not telling anyone.
I'm sorry. The next meeting, we had the date, but it's now at Calcott, is that correct?
Yes.
So if Amanda is still agreeable,
she knows, does she?
Is that okay?
Thank you. And could we have a copy of the newsletter? That'd be good. Right, on a regular basis, yeah?
Yeah, it should go out. I think possibly because we changed clerks, you wouldn't have got it last time maybe. But usually when it goes out to schools, the instruction is there for it to be sent to all Sacre members.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll re-establish that.
Nice to see everybody.
You can do that for us, can't you, Thomas? I expect.
I'm sure we can sort that out, yes.
Thank you. No, I don't know what other people think about that, but, and I don't actually know the history of how the groupings were agreed in the beginning, in 1944 or whoever it was, whenever it was. But there has to be a way, doesn't there, of appropriately representing the diversity of the committee, and I'm not sure we always get that exactly right. Has anyone been on the other Sacres where the Church of England made a particular contribution?
Not in a positive way, no. I'm just thinking of Slough, that's all. Sorry, I can't help it.
What do you think
Robin
that would
knows.
look like? How would you expect that to be sort of visible, for want of a better word, in a meeting if someone was representing the Church of England, which obviously I'm not, am I? So I'm wondering how would we know? Because just thinking at the end of our governors' meetings, for example, we always have to go back and review whether or not we've met our mission statement. You know, is that something we should be doing at the end of our meetings, whether or not we've met certain criteria to show that we've represented the diversity within our ranks? I don't know, just thinking out loud. What would you want it to look like? How could we tell if we were doing it effectively?
Is this very different from us representing the diversity of West Berkshire? Because isn't that?
I think there's that too, isn't there?
Yeah.
That,
I mean, it just seems to me that that's probably, dare I say, more important that whoever's here is representing.
Yeah.
West Berkshire, perhaps.
Yeah.
Committee in some way as that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the 4 groupings really. But yes, I'm sure that's important too.
David, there is another aspect to the equality or equity and diversity thing that's on there, and that's how this whole decolonizing of the curriculum thing is being looked at now. And that's where, like I was saying earlier, we need to be mindful of the resources we use, the images we use, that they're not stereotypical, that we are considering when we use terms like Hinduism, that for a lot of Hindus, that's an inappropriate word. And Sikhs prefer Sikhi to Sikhism. The sort of Sanatana Dharma is preferred to Hinduism because of its meaning and its origin and its, whole colonial business. So there's also that aspect too. We have to represent our area, but we also have to be aware of nationally what's going on with things like this, helping us make sure our children are having that sort of broader educational experience.
I'm just thinking about Mel's question a little bit. I guess what I'm feeling for is whether the Church of England, as the state church in this country, brings a particular flavour or responsibility to it. Obviously, you see it, when you're doing a new syllabus, I guess the thinking is that the C of E in particular would influence the teaching of Christianity, the syllabus content for Christianity.
But hopefully what we have in the Church of England as our basic faith isn't any different from yours as a Baptist. So although it's the Church of England, it's not much different from every other Christian faith, disregarding the weird ones.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to know what you can actually bring as a Church of England member. I hope I bring the fact that I've got a faith, and I think there's something that's important to be taught and promoted in schools in a fair way and a way with equity and diversity built into it. But also as a teacher, I've also got that point of view as well. So I'm not sitting here saying, well, teachers can do this because I know they can't.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope I bring.
Oh, you definitely do, but I'm just it's
difficult to do because the Church of England it's our established church, and it's on the wane, like most Christian churches at the moment. And it's difficult to actually say what its face is, if you like, because we are so diverse. I mean, Baptists at the moment.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, it's utter chaos, really, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, that's just. I hope you don't mind me raising that. Just been thinking about that a little bit. Robin has had something else I think to say.
No, I think it's an interesting question actually, and I think if as we've got sort of 10 minutes, is a good time to sort of put our heads together with this question, because of course I suppose the question is also what is our role as a member of the Sacre? What is my role as a member of this? And in some ways, it's to be a resource for humanism, so people kind of know what that is. But it is Robin Launder's take on humanism. I can't speak for all humanists. And then we kind of get into this debate, and a really helpful one about worldviews, because we have a document here that says, here's the worldview for humanism, and here it is for all these faiths. But actually, it's a kind of very large macro picture of a worldview, and within that worldview there is going to be massive diversity. And actually, going back to the David, going back to the the syllabus that's being created. You know, I hope that that kind of, and I know it will be actually, because I know we've talked about it, but that whole idea of that someone's worldview is their kind of precision to how they see the world, and
absolutely will be
stuff. I know
embedded.
you're going to be talking about that,
Yeah.
but I think that's a really key thing in a sense. But I suppose I'm just thinking about my role. My role actually isn't. I mean, you know, maybe, just maybe I can say that I'm got some expertise on humanism, maybe. But I think really what I'm here to do is just make sure that the students in the catchment area get good quality education when it comes to worldviews and RE. I think that's my primary focus, which supersedes, funny enough, my kind of humanism position. I think the first one is good quality education. And the second one is, you know, and if I can help in terms of giving a single perspective about humanism. But I also want to go back to, I'm sorry, I don't know everyone's names, but the teacher, the lady mentioned, you know, about sort of CVE. And you know, yeah, thank you, Mary. So forgive me, Mary. But, you know, like the sort of Christian ideas, you know, are broadly similar, minus the weird ones. But the problem with that is that there will be people in our school who will have, and I'm going to put this in inverted commas, because, you know, a weird view is a view only that you don't agree with. You know, that's the point. And I think there is a question mark about that kind of language. We've got to be very cautious about, you know, what we think is, you know, what we all collectively accept as being, well, this is standard and okay. And then using words like weird to describe other worldviews. And I know you didn't specify any, but I just think we've got to be really cautious about this. And I think that then says something about what our role is. I think our role is incredibly complex, you know, because of where we are, what we're talking about, and people's sensibilities about this. So, yeah. So anyway, there's my musings on that kind of question.
Mel, come in.
I was just going to say, you know, it's really good that we can have these discussions, because one of the things I think limits RE teaching in schools is the fear of getting it wrong or saying the wrong thing. So, you know, teachers really want that high quality information about what the correct terminology is to use, because the last thing you want to do as a teacher is bring your own baggage into the classroom and be guilty of getting it wrong, not through any malicious intent, but actually just through a lack of personal education. And I think actually we do our children a disservice when we don't sort of jump in and have these challenging conversations with them. I mean, challenging in an enjoyable and a good way. You know, and primary school, yes, we may not be at the cutting edge of some of the debate about current affairs and things like that. But actually, I think we have a massive responsibility. The moment we hear a child using terminology that we're not thinking is quite right or could be taken the wrong way, to actually have that open conversation with them without any judgment, and just sort of explore it a bit further and find out, you know, what it is that they're thinking, and share other ideas and opinions with them and kind of celebrate it. So I think it's really interesting to think about what good quality RE education actually is. But I think that's a really good way of looking at it. A really simple way is, have we in this meeting work towards making sure the children in the local area have access to good quality education, have a really good worldview, really good global perspective. I like that idea. I think that captures it quite well.
I would certainly say what Robin said at the beginning there. I would certainly say the same as a Christian. You know, my background is in RE education. That's passion that I bring to this, and I am a Christian, but that comes second to this in this role. But what, Chris, you were saying, can you just explore that a bit more if we've got 2 minutes? Did you mean that our equality and our diversity ought to reflect the particular makeup of West Berkshire?
I think somehow we need to make sure that when we're talking about these issues, we are taking into account the communities of West Berkshire. One of the things I was most surprised, so I went to Beenham Primary, it's one of the few schools that we talked to last year, and they have quite a large number of Afghan refugee children who have settled in their area, settled in that catchment. Now, Beenham is not the sort of place you would normally think of expecting to see people wearing hijab and such like. So I felt that, you know, that's a community and an issue as well, refugees and such like. Sits very much, I feel, within what we talk about. So I think it's making sure that all those voices somehow are being heard. I don't know. It's difficult to probably put down when you think about, the 18 people that sit and
Yes.
are the SACRE.
Yeah.
But do we, between us, do we know about all these different things that happen across West Berkshire? Maybe that's the easy way to look at it. How are we well informed about the diversity of West Berkshire?
Yes. Well, one new thing that I learned only last year is that there is a Hindu community here, and which I hadn't really met before. Gotham and his friends. I don't think they have what they would call a temple in West Berkshire, but there is a group of Hindus here, which was new to me. So you just have to kind of learn as you go along, I suppose.
Mhm.
Right, shall we finish by thanking Amanda for her invitation next time, and any special instructions, Amanda, for coming to Calcott Junior School?
No, not really. Just we are on two sites, so we've got the junior school kind of at the top of the field and the infant schools at the bottom of the field. But you can park in either the junior or the infants. It's absolutely fine. You just obviously have to walk a bit further if you go to the infants. But obviously I'll pass on details and things to go out with the next agenda items and everything. And obviously, yeah, it'll be lovely to welcome you all there.
Right. Thank you so much. Okay, and is there any other business? Okay, in which case we'll finish part one of the meeting and we'll stop the live stream if we may.
Live stream has now ended.